Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 3 of Grim Scenarios, a Blood on the Clocktower strategy podcast, hosted by myself, Milk, and as always, my co host, Emma. Hello, Emma.
Hey, Milk, how's it going on this beautiful Wednesday morning?
It is another fine and dandy Wednesday morning. The sun is shining, the birds are chirping, and it is definitely not nighttime. It is definitely Wednesday morning. How are you on this fine and dandy Wednesday? I see that you maybe aren't as nearby as usual.
I'm doing great
the wrong
this Wednesday morning. You can tell that because if we were recording this at some other time, like a Monday of this week, my camera would be off, my voice would be a little tired. It'd be like I had woken up at 5 a.m. in Minnesota and then flown to Phoenix and worked a full day of Phoenix after landing in Phoenix at 9. It would just be ridiculous. But it's Wednesday, so my camera's on, I'm happy and full of joy.
Those all sound like true statements. We definitely haven't been affected by the Vortox here, and the Vortox is one of the demons on our script for this week. Emma, Sects and Violets. Do you want to say anything about the script before we get into the old scenario?
Yeah. So we're moving on from TB. We did 2 weeks of TB, we're doing 2 weeks of SNV now, and we're doing 2 weeks of BMR. And SNV introduces a lot of new strategic things for both teams to pay attention to. First is, of course, the new keyword madness, which is absent from the other two base scripts. It's only on SNV and future expansions. Second, of course, in SNV, you have the function that players can change characters mid-games, and not because of their team deciding to change characters like they can with the Imp's movement in TB. The other team can forcibly change your character. And that goes for both sides, because the Snake Charmer and the Philosopher Snake Charmer are good characters. The Barber and the Pitag and the Fangu are controlled by evil. And of course, the other thing that makes this is if you think about the TB script versus the SNV script. On the TB script, there's a lot of roles on TB that don't gain any information whatsoever. Whereas on SNV, literally every single townsfolk gains information. Every single one of them, which means for both teams, there's just a lot of information they need to manage and dodge.
I think when we talk about the base 3 scripts, Trouble Brewing is a very balanced script. It has social elements, it has mechanical elements. I think Sects and Violets is a very mechanical script. There's a lot of information out there. It is possible to end up in mechanically solvable or mechanically solved games of Sects and Violets. And as you may have seen, last week in our games on Tuesday night, sometimes Sects and Violets is just gonna do Sects and Violets stuff. Sometimes it's just gonna be solvable, and that's just part of SNV. That's part of having so much information. To combat that, the evil characters on Sects and Violets are incredibly powerful. They're some of the most powerful of the base characters. The Pit Hag being able to just change characters at will, largely. The Cerenovus locking out information or potentially gaining kills. The Witch, which I think is a pretty underrated character, being able to just get free kills for the evil team. Something that doesn't happen on Trouble Brewing, which can happen in Sects and Violets, is we can have multiple deaths in the night, or a death in the day that's an extra death. So those are things we have to watch out for. Similarly, the demons are incredibly powerful. The Vortox negates all or falsifies all information, and while that might be solvable, it is difficult to solve at times. The Nodashi poisons 2 characters. The Vigor Mortis can keep powerful minions like the Cerenovus and the Pit Hag in play by killing them and get the bonus of poisoning. And everybody's favorite, the Fangu, can just create another evil by jumping to an outsider. So this is a very powerful evil script.
Yeah, and the other thing I think that is underrated sometimes in switching from Trouble Brewing to Sects and Violets or BMR, and I don't think it really matters whether you jump to BMR as your second script or Sects and Violets. I think there's good arguments for going both ways. Is the change from having 1 demon to 4 demons, and 4 demons that require you to solve the game in different ways, is a big deal. It's on Trouble Brewing, the demon's always an imp. You don't have to spend a time trying to think, what type of game are we playing? What type of demon are we fighting? What type of world do we need to be building? Whereas in S&V, you need to be thinking about that all the time. How does this information work if it's a Vortex world? How does this information work if it's an Odashi world? How does it work if it's a Vig world? How does it work if it's a Finku? The variability in the demons, who all have hugely different effects on particularly the sorts of misinformation that are in the game, is really important. And it makes it much trickier for the good team, which is balanced against the good team getting tons of powerful information, which is something I assume both scenarios tonight will emphasize. I don't know anything about Milk's scenario. Milk doesn't know anything about my scenario.
As always,
we're going to launch right into that.
We're going to
Milk's
try to defeat each other.
Run a scenario for me first. This is going to be our good perspective for the week. I'm going to be good. I'm going to solve the game. And then I'm going to run a scenario for Milk, where Milk will be evil, because that's his nature.
That's my nature. Let's go to the Grim, Emma. I think that's a thing we should say every week as well, because I like that. Emma, I'm gonna give you a chance to play as a good role, because I know that you're a player that loves to be on the good team and to solve the game for good, to be a powerful force for solving the game for good. But since Sects and Violets does come with an instant loss condition,
can I just
in the clutch.
Interrupt you for a second? Yeah. Are you claiming that I'm going to be the Snake Charmer? Because it sounds like you're going to make me the Snake Charmer.
You're going to be the Snake Charmer in seat 7, Emma. Emma, everybody, is going to be the Snake Charmer down here in seat 7. And our game is also going to come with a Klutz win condition, which is if you Snake Charm the demon, you lose. What do you think about that?
If I Snake Charm the demon, I lose?
You lose. Your goal here is to help the good team by using your ability. Now,
well, if I Snake Charm the demon, that also helps the good team.
Now we might talk about what happens if you Snake Charm the demon. We certainly will. But we're going to hope that you manage to use this powerful townsfolk ability to Snake Charm lots of players who aren't the demon and solve the scenario. That's what we're hoping. We'll see how it goes.
Okay.
All right, Emma, are you ready? Are you ready for your scenario? So you are, of course, woken on night 1. I'm gonna take it easy on you. I'm gonna give you a little break here. On night 1, you are in seat 7, and on night 1, you Snake Charm the player in seat 1 and do not become the demon.
Okay. I Snake Charmed to seat 1 and did not become the demon.
That's correct. So I'm giving you that one for free. No random night 1 Snake Charmings here. We're not gonna have that happen.
Okay.
As soon as town wakes up on day 1, the players in seat 1 and seat 2 declare that they are both the Clockmaker and that they are twins.
Fascinating. So we have a Clockmaker twin pair.
You have a Clockmaker twin pair.
All right, cool.
And they go off and talk to each other before anyone else in town can get a word in. They go off and talk to each other.
I was hoping to ask to talk to both of them at the same time, so it's a bummer they've already run off.
Yeah, unfortunately they've already run off. Maybe you can catch them later in the day.
Okay.
You immediately get a ping from the player in seat 12.
Okay, I'll take it.
Yep, and so you head off to talk to the player in seat 12, and the player in seat 12 says, I will hard claim my role to you in exchange for your hard claim. What do you say?
All right, they want a hard claim for a hard claim.
They want to trade a hard claim for a hard claim, so what do you say?
Yeah, sure, I'll trade a hard claim for a hard claim.
All right, they claim Dreamer.
Ooh, fun. So there's 2 choices you can really do here as a Snake Charm.
That's right.
There's obviously the choice where, you hide your role. This is called the I'm going to try to win with Evil Snake. And it's a pretty common one.
Yep. It's called hedging your bets.
It's called hedging your bets. The other one is, of course, just to tell people you're the Snake Charmer and go from there. Which is called you're gonna lose if you hit the demon.
That's right.
There's very little chance of you winning the game as evil if you tell people you're the Snake Charmer. Now, I'm speaking to someone who's claimed Dreamer, who wanted to talk to me immediately, which means there's a good chance that they dreamt me and are trying to see if it's a Vortox game.
All right.
So, I'm gonna say, all right, if you claimed a Dreamer, did you dream me last night? I want to know.
no, I didn't dream you last night. I want to find someone to dream tonight.
Interesting. Okay. If they are claiming not to have dreamed me, I will tell them I'm the mutant.
All right.
No, I won't do that. That's something I would do in a real game, but it's not something
That's
that makes
not a good
lot of sense.
strategy here.
I think it is actually a better strategy than people think.
It's not a bad one. What's the benefit? Let's just say, what's the benefit of claiming an outsider in this situation?
What's the benefit of claiming an outsider is it's funny. It's always funny. And it's something I do, so it's a social thing. The other thing is I don't like being Fangu jumped.
Fair enough. It's not even really an argument to there. I do, so.
I want to live. I want to live, and I don't want to be Fangu jumped. So if you claim outsider and it's a Fangu game, you might scare the Fangu away from attacking you.
Yep, that's fair.
But I'm not going to actually do that because that's just me being funny. Not
that's you being Emma and having some fun. Yeah. Not necessarily a good strategy for the viewers at home to follow right away.
I'm going to claim to be the mathematician.
You claim to be the mathematician, okay? And the dreamer says, okay, I don't want to share my info, so I won't ask for your info.
Okay, cool.
All right, and you leave the conversation and go back to town. The player in seat 5 also is interested in speaking to you. If you're available, and since there doesn't seem to be anybody else around, you talk to the player in seat 5.
I'll talk to seat 5.
Seat 5 claims to be the juggler and asks what you would like to be juggled as.
Oh, I'm gonna tell them they can juggle me with the snake charmer, but they're gonna get it.
Okay. So the player in seat 5 has claimed to be the juggler, and you've said that you can juggle me as the snake charmer, but you're going to get it wrong.
Yep.
All right. And they say, do you want to give me a roll that I can juggle you with that I'll get right?
No, I say no. And the reason I'm gonna say no is because I think for a juggler, they don't really care whether they get an actual roll or not. They care if they're getting a roll that they're expecting a 1 or a 0.
Uh-huh.
It's nice to get 5 1s, but it's not super important to them. What's more important to them is knowing the numbers they get. And again, as a snake charmer, you probably want to hedge your bets a little bit.
Yeah.
So, I want to avoid. So again, this is hedging my bets. So I'm gonna say you can juggle me as a snake charmer, you're gonna get it wrong, and hopefully they'll believe me. And hopefully then when they juggle me and as a snake charmer and get a 1, if they go that route, they'll think something else is wrong and they won't look at me as actually being the snake charmer.
Sounds fair. So they say, okay, great. I'll juggle you as the snake charmer. And then they go back to town. You go back to town. You can catch either seat 8 or seat 2 today for this next chat.
I was really hoping to get both seat 1 and 2, but I'll go talk to seat 2.
Yeah, seat 1 seems to be elsewhere. Okay, you go and talk to seat 2. What do you want to ask them? They say, hey, I'm a clockmaker. I'm a twin.
I want to know the clock numbers.
This clockmaker, the clockmaker in seat 2, will tell you that their clockmaker number is a 2.
Do they know seat 1's clockmaker?
They say seat 1 is claiming that the clockmaker number is a 3.
Interesting. Those are super cool because they're one off and the twins are sat next to each other.
Mm-hmm.
So, it's not quite right. Ooh.
The clockmaker in seat 2 seems really concerned with convincing you that they're the good one.
Yeah, I don't really care. That's what twins are going to do. It's not my job to solve the twins. It's someone else's job to solve the twins.
That's probably true.
They could just both be evil too, but they're probably not. They're probably not. I'm just going to mark down a bunch of people who could be the demon based off those clockmaker numbers. So that's seat 11 and seat 3 based off the seat 2 clockmaker number, and that's seat 11 and seat
5
based off the seat 1 clockmaker number. That sounds pretty cool.
Assuming that the closest minion is, of course, one of the clockmakers.
Yeah. But twins. These set the maximum distance the demon can
Correct.
Be. Assuming that these twins are telling the truth, assuming that one of them is actually a minion, no person closer than that can be the demon from each respective twin.
Yep, that's correct. Yeah, that's good, and it's good mechanics to use. When you go back to town, you have an option between talking to seat 8 or seat 6.
I'm gonna talk to seat 8.
Okay, seat 8 would like to do a 3 for 3 with you.
Interesting. So in real life, I don't really do 3 for 3s. They're a common technique. They develop from in-person play for the simple reason that the evil team has 3 bluffs. So when you're evil, you want to be to show your minions the 3 bluffs you got. So when you're good, you also want to give 3 rolls to mimic the 3 bluffs you got, because you're physically pointing at your character sheet saying this one, this one, this one. You want to be to say that to your minions to show them the 3 bluffs, but you also want that to not be to tell you're evil. So that's where the 3.
There are a few stages that I think players go through with bluffing roles as various different characters, whether good or evil. The first stage is 3 for 3s, where you just give 3 rolls, and one of those 3 rolls is your roll, and you just are trying to obfuscate a little bit what role you have. And then the next stage is giving 2 for 2s, which you still often see veteran players giving 2 for 2s to one another and kind of, hedging a little bit, but basically, giving a 2 for 2. And then there's hard claims, where you just claim your roll straight to each other. And then after a while, you do those things, but just don't put your actual roll in them. And you start to realize that it's just not necessarily worth giving 3 rolls when you can just bluff one. If you're going to just lie about one thing. It's easier.
I mean, and I don't... Milk says that very prescriptively, and I disagree that there's, like, a prescriptiveness to this.
Yeah, there's not.
There's, like, all sorts of different strategies to bluffing. The important thing with bluffing isn't, like, how many rolls you give, or whether you give your truth or your lie. It's that you bluff with purpose. Like,
right.
You don't want to just be nonsensical every day of the game, every time you play. You don't want to make it so it's entirely unreliable for anyone to talk to you. You want your bluffs to have some sort of meaning behind them. You want them to be things that you give to be interesting. Now, I don't like giving 3 for 3s. In person, online, it's not something I find enjoyable.
I don't remember the third roll usually.
Because it's not something that I find super conducive to helping me on either team.
I agree. I'll do 2s, or I'll do hard claims.
As evil, people sort of tend to push you into a minion box because they think, well, you're trying to look like you don't have a bluff. You're trying to hedge your bets. Maybe you haven't talked to your demon yet. If you're doing it as good, you're just sort of putting misinformation out into the world, which some players like doing that. It's not personally how I find fun. Like, if I'm going to put out misinformation, I'd rather just lie about my heart on it.
Yeah.
But C8 has asked for a 3 for 3, and I'll let them give me 3 rolls.
Okay. Seed 8 is going to give you Sage, Town Crier, or Flower Girl. What 3 would you like to give, or what would you like to give back?
Town Crier or Flower Girl. That's an interesting 3. That's a super interesting 3. And the reason it's an interesting 3 is because they've given me one of the more powerful information rolls, one of the higher priority demon kills. That's the Flower Girl. One of probably the weakest, and then the probably 2 weakest townsfolk rolls, the Town Crier and the Sage. But one of those, of course, is something the demon doesn't want to kill, where the other one is something the demon does.
And why would you construct a 3 for 3 like this? Since we're talking a little bit about bluffing as a good player, or in general as a kind of player in either scenario, why would those be 3 good things to give?
The idea between a bluff by that is you want the demon to be unsure whether they want to kill you or not. And the reason for that is if they're unsure whether they want to kill you or not, and you're the Flower Girl, maybe you get to stay alive longer. If you're the Sage, maybe they get confused and kill you because they think you're bluffing as the Flower Girl. Like, that's the sort of reason.
You could simplify it. Sorry, you could simplify it down to just Flower Girl and Sage, right?
Yeah, Town Crier's not doing much for that bluff, which is another reason why. Like, if this player's the Town Crier, I'm not sure why they've given Flower Girl and Sage as their other 2.
Fair enough.
Probably
a useful reason.
But like, to me, like, this is sort of why I dislike a 3 for 3. It just sort of feels like 3 rolls that don't really give me much of a read on them.
So we'll just go ahead and mark.
So in response, I'm going to tell them that I'm the Snake Charmer.
Oh, you're going to tell them you're a Snake Charmer. Okay.
Yeah. But in like a sort of dismissive tone, as if I don't really care for the 3 they gave me. So.
All right. They say they'll narrow. They say they'll narrow it down if you give them a serious claim.
All right.
They say they're the sage or the flower girl.
I say that's the same claim you already gave me. I'll tell them that I'm the seamstress,
Spent seamstress. Okay, great. And then you get gonged back to town, and so everybody comes back to the town square. You've had a nice chat. A number of players juggle. There's a variety of juggles of various different people as the demon or minion or things like that. Seat 5 juggles Seat 1 as the evil twin, Seat 4 as the Savant, Seat 6 as the Fangu, Seat 10 as the Philosopher, and Seat 11 as the Sage. They do not juggle you in that juggle.
Okay.
Yep. And then people kind of sit around a bit and don't seem certain who to nominate. But somebody mentions that there's a Vortox on the script, and Seat 9 says that they would be willing to die to prevent a Vortox win if no one else is available to die.
Seat 9 says that?
Seat 9 says that. And so Seat 12 nominates Seat 9, and the vote goes around, and there are enough votes to put Seat 9 on the block.
I didn't vote on that, by the way.
Yeah, you would not. I'm certain you would not vote on that, but enough other players seemed to want to do so that it was able to get on the block. We'll say it got 6 votes and went on the block.
Okay, yeah. And sort of like my thought here is I don't see any interest in killing someone who's willing to die, even on S&B. They're probably good. Like, an evil player can bluff this, but someone who's willing to die is most likely on the good team.
Probably on the good team.
Yeah, I would prefer to kill Seat 10, Seat 6, or Seat 4 here.
Okay. There doesn't seem to be a whole lot of other interest
Actually,
in
I
doing
prefer
that.
to kill Seat 10 or Seat 6. Those are the people I think are most likely to be the demon.
There doesn't seem to be a whole lot of interest in doing that, but you can make a nomination if you want. Seat 9 asks for an ST consult and goes off with the ST for a minute.
So they're the artist.
Okay, well, we'll just go ahead and put them as the artist then, since that's what you think. And then Seat 9 comes back. Do you want to try to push a nomination through?
What I'm getting from your tone milk is I'm not going to succeed if I try to push a nomination through at Seat 10 or Seat 6, so I'll pass.
All right, fair enough. Yeah, we'll just say you don't have a whole lot of agency here on the first day. The player in Seat 9 is executed and dies. Everybody goes to sleep, and in the night, Seat 5 is killed. But sorry, I forgot. You have to make a snake charmer pick. Well, I guess it's not going to be Seat 5.
Yeah, you've given me a hint that Seat 5 is not my game loss.
That's right.
So here's the thing: as we talked earlier with the twin stuff, like in all likelihood, based off all the information we've got today, everyone we've talked to, it's highly unlikely that Seat 1 or Seat 2 are the demon.
Yeah, well, you also snake charmed Seat 1 on Seat.
Highly unlikely Seat 2 is the demon. Highly unlikely Seat 12 is the demon, because that would violate Seat 2's clockmaker number with Seat 1. Seat 3 could be the demon, assuming Seat 1's the minion. Seat 4 is fairly unlikely to be the demon, because Seat 1 has a 3, and Seat 4 is 2 seats away from Seat 2. Seat 11 could be the demon. So we want to avoid Seat 11. So we are going to snake charm Seat 4, because it's just very hard to build the Seat 4 demon world based off the clock.
Well, Emma, I've got great news for you. You are now the Vortox.
Now, cool.
Bad luck. Yeah, so the clockmaker number is Vortoxed, which unfortunately makes that little bit of protection not such a helpful guide.
There wasn't information here to just acknowledge Vortox.
Yeah, sorry about that. That one didn't go so great.
No worries.
Well, let's talk about what happens. Let's talk about what happens now, because I was actually asked by quite a lot of people to do a snake charmer scenario, and I was specifically asked by a lot of people, what happens if you get the snake charmer? What happens if you get the snake charmer early? What happens if you get the demon token early?
Seat 5 is not.
So Seat 5's not dead.
Because I'm not killing them.
Yeah, so Seat 5's not dead. So let's see how far we can go just talking through this at least, and see how much information you can glean here. So what's the play? You've snake charmed the demon. You're now the snake charmer. What are we gonna do?
I'm not killing the snake charmer.
Why not? Why don't we kill the snake charmer? This is really important because a lot of people immediately kill the snake charmer. Why don't we kill the snake charmer?
The benefit of killing the snake charmer is I know they're on the other team, and I don't know who else is on the other team, so that makes them a fun kill. The downside of it is, they're gonna. I don't want to confirm that what just happened by killing.
That's right.
And there's ways for them to get back on the evil team, and if we have a pit hag, if we have a barber, like there's ways for them to get back on the team.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to hold that open for them to sort of incentivize them to play nice.
All right.
A barista could travel in and make them sober. Plenty of ways for this to go well for me if I don't kill them. Very few ways for it to go well for me if I do.
Right. As soon as you kill them, they're basically confirmed as a good player, and you're out of luck.
Yeah.
All right.
So, the other thing I want to do is I want to avoid killing into the Vortox worlds based off the Clocktower. We didn't have enough information to detect Vortox yesterday, which is why we snake charmed someone who was never the demon in a non-Vortox game and lost.
But that's gonna happen.
So
you did travel a very long way today, so we'll take it easy on you.
There was absolutely no way to identify that as a Vortox game based on the information.
Nope, you would have found out about a day later.
Yeah. So I picked the player who was least likely to do the demon in a non-Vortox game, which unfortunately happened to be the demon in this scenario, which is fine.
Very specifically.
Yeah. But we're gonna kill into the non-Vortox world, so we're gonna kill Seat 12. Because in a non-Vortox game, Seat 12 is just never the demon.
Alright, we're killing Seat 12. Alright. So you wake up on the following morning, and the player in Seat 12 very loudly says, hey, I have an announcement for everybody. It's really important. I was the sage, and the demon is either the player in Seat 11 or Seat 8.
Beautiful.
And those two players immediately go, oh no, we're not the demon, and the day progresses. There are a few chats. I don't know how far we want to try to take this. I don't know how far we want to take this Vortox thing, since we were intending to do a good scenario here. But fortunately, I have a backup. So.
Yeah, I don't think we should run this through.
Yeah, we're not gonna run this through.
We can talk a little bit what you do when you snake charm. So we don't want to confirm the Seat 4 world. That's the main thing we want to do. Seat 4, we don't want, if they're telling people that there's a Vortox, we don't want to confirm that by ever killing them. We're never touching.
Correct.
And we're going to kill into the non-Vortox world first. So we're going to be killing, basically, Seat 3 and 11 are our next two night deaths, then Seat 5.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to keep the people who are more likely to be the demon in a non-Vortox world, which are Seat 10, Seat 8, unfortunately, Seat 7, which is me, and Seat 6 alive.
Right. And yeah, basically you just have to create alternate worlds. That twin pair's probably going to get resolved, right? Pretty easily when the snake charmed demon comes out and says, "Hey, I was snake charmed."
Which they may not do. Again, we don't know if there's a pit hag. We don't know if there's.
We don't know what else is on the Grim.
Because yesterday we just had the silly artist execution, which is unfortunate.
Yep, it just happens. The artist gives out their information as well, which unfortunately is. Their question was, is the demon seated in an even-numbered seat? To which the answer is no, or which the answer was no yesterday, because it's a Vortox world and the demon was seated in seat 4. So it does point at you a little bit with the artist information, which is unfortunate. But again, they may solve that it's a Vortox.
Yeah, no. I mean, it's highly unlikely to win this game.
Yeah, this is a rough snake charm.
Very hard to win because the evil twin is basically fully neutered now. Whichever one's the evil twin, they're done.
It's seat 2, by the way.
There's a good player who objectively knows who the demon is. So that's done. That's just done.
Yeah. I'll just reveal the rest of the Grim for folks who might be wondering what else was out there. There was a seamstress that would have solved the twins, that would have gotten a yes on the twin and the mutant in seat 8 on day 2. There is a barber in seat 6 who did not want to die under any circumstances and claimed to be a very bad kill through the entire game. There is a witch in seat 10 and an actual dreamer in seat 11. The players in seat 11 and seat 12 swapped roles. And the clockmaker got a 3 because Vortox doesn't have to be right.
Yep. What was in seat 3?
Seat 3 was the seamstress, who looked at the player in seat 2 and the player in seat 8 and got a yes. They are on the same team. And there was a potential framed evil team of seat 8, seat 11, and seat 2 in the game.
Yeah.
There would have been very bad Savant information coming from the player in seat 4, which would have made it a lot easier to solve. Unfortunately, you don't get that Savant information on day 1, so it is unfortunate. But this is how it's going to go sometimes, everybody. Sometimes the scenarios, my one may fall apart. We may have to re-record the whole episode. Who knows?
No, it's fine. This is a good thing. Like I said, my feeling with Vortox is that you play as long as if it's not Vortox until you know for a fact that it is.
Yeah, 100%.
And with the clockmaker numbers we had, seed 4 was never the demon in the Vortox. Seed 4 was only ever the demon if it was specifically a Vortox.
That's right.
Which is why we charmed them, and we happened to lose the 1 and 4.
That's not that bad. Yep.
I'm gonna lose this game, but I want to emphasize: we're talking about playing the Snake Charmer for good. Good's gonna win this game. Snake Charmer played.
That's that's right. The Snake Charmer helped.
The Snake Charmer didn't play for Emma, but the Snake Charmer played for good.
That's right.
Which you have to accept that sometimes when you're the Snake Charmer is that your character is a townsfolk. It helps the good team win, but that doesn't mean it necessarily helps you win. It helps the good team.
And in talking about the mechanics of the Snake Charmer, a lot of that is going to come down to your social reads to some extent, because it's going to come down to players who you mechanically think are good and also socially seem good to you. And sometimes that's going to mean you Snake Charm the demon.
Yeah, like I said, it's with one of your in a Snake Charmer game. As soon as there's a twin, it's exceptionally hard for evil to win in a Snake Charmer game, and after a Snake Charming, if there's a twin.
Yeah.
To the degree where if it was night 1, if I was running a game and it was night 1, and I wake a Snake Charmer and they hit the demon, I'm gonna go to the evil twin and be like, hey, I'm changing you into this other minion for reasons.
Yep.
I'm just gonna it's gonna be more fun for the game if you do that. Putting the twin in there after a Snake Charming is just not fun.
Another thing that a lot of people talk about, and some storytellers have started doing, is running the Snake Charmer and the Philo Snake Charmer, which we're not talking about here, but is essentially the same issue, is running them before minion and demon information on the first night.
Yeah, but
to prevent the...
Let's not get into house rules and homebrew stuff.
Yeah, it's just something that is discussed often in the community, and you may hear people say. The better thing to do as a storyteller is to try to make the game fun from the perspective that you still have the ability to adjust it, right? The evil twin's going to know that there's not an evil twin in play. If the evil twin were a different minion, they would have known that there's not an evil twin in play.
Yeah, but it's the evil twin's power is that there's not a good player who knows who they are.
Yeah, exactly. And as soon as a good player knows who they are, it's pretty much the game.
This setup, evil's not going to win. After the Snake Charmer,
it's
with
very hard.
Just a witch and the evil twin, it's just impossible for you.
Yeah, if you had a pit hag, you could do something.
There's stuff you can do with a pit hag. There's stuff you can do with a Cerenovus. Even the Cerenovus can lock down that X demon, prevent them from saying anything under threat of execution, and they can keep it on them even after that Snake Charmer is dead.
Yeah, but there's just not very much you can do.
Right, the ability for this on this setup for the evil team to disrupt at this point is basically gone.
Yeah,
and the witch is going to get killed.
Yeah, the witch is going to die instantly, and then the evil twin will get killed.
The witch is going to kill, and then the evil twin's going to get killed.
And then you're
and then it's just me,
and then you're basically on your own. Yeah, you're pretty bad shape here. A later Snake Charming can do more, but
an early Snake Charming is an early Snake Charming.
Yeah, an early Snake Charming.
That was fun.
Well, that was fun. Guess I'm glad I wrote down these 3 pages of information. Probably play more off the cuff next time, but All right. Well, Emma, why don't we? I guess we'll go to the intermission screen and talk about what we're going to do.
Let's go to the intermission screen. We'll switch and we'll run the evil scenario.
That's right. We'll switch and we'll run the evil scenario. See, you got some good scenario. You got a whole day of good here. It's very positive. All right. Let's go. Oh, wait. This is the wrong one. Hold on. All right, welcome back, everybody. I'm in the player seat now, and Emma's in the storyteller seat, and Emma's got a scenario for me, and I am evil as always. So take it away, Emma.
Milk, you're sat in seat 12. You are the Cerenovus. And the situation is, it is night. It is the 5th night of the game. 4 players are alive at the start of the night.
Okay.
And let's talk about how we got here first. And as we talk about how we got here, we're going to go over some stuff, and some of these things that I'm going to say have happened are, I think, things that your character has done that are mistakes. So part of what I want to test you on is if you can catch what I think are mistakes.
All right.
And see whether you agree with me. So let's start with your evil team. Back on night 1, you were woken up and told that seat 9 was your demon, and seat 6 was your fellow minion.
Okay, seat 6 is a fellow minion. Got it.
You talked to seat 9 on day 1. They told you they were the Fangu.
Fangu!
They told you that the bluffs were town crier, artist, and barber, and that they were hoping they had a pit hag, and they wouldn't be using the barber bluff. They would be pit hagging the barber into play. They were taking the artist bluff, and they offered you town crier.
Okay.
Did you take so that was the bluff that you were given, that your demon asked you to take. You don't have to use it, but that was the bluff your demon asked you to take.
I would take the bluff, but I probably would avoid claiming it for a while.
Okay. Yeah. So
and the reason for that is it's a middling roll. Middling rolls can often claim more powerful things to try to get killed.
Yeah. Okay. So later in the day, you learned that your fellow minion was not the pit hag. Your demon's plans were disappointed. Oh, let's actually, before we get that, what's the barber bluff tell you?
In a Fangu game, having a barber bluff. Wow, a Fangu game with a barber bluff. That's interesting.
It gives you some very good information, though, right?
Yes, because it tells me what outsiders are in play. It tells me Mutant, Sweetheart, and Klutz are all definitely in play.
Alright, so, as I was saying, you didn't actually talk to Seat 6 that first day. But you learned they weren't the pit hag because seat 10 nominated on day 1 and immediately died.
Got it. So seat 10 died to Witch Curse on day 1.
Yep. And on day 1, they then claimed Klutz and picked seat 11.
Picked seat 11. All right, let's get this in the Grim here, everybody. Klutz. Day 1.
As soon as that happened, seat 8 nominated themselves and gave the following accusation. I was dreamed as the sweetheart. But, so I know it's not a Vortex game because I am in fact the sweetheart. I've heard of a Math Zero, and we'll get back to that Math Zero in a second. So I don't think it's an Odashi game. The Klutz just died to a Witch Curse, so I don't think it's a Vigor Mortis game. I am 100% sure this is a Fang Gu game, and I don't want to get jumped later. With the Mathematician in play, we can track my drunkening. Let's just kill me. I'm not doing this as a Dreamer Confirmed Outsider. They were executed as a result.
Alright, fair enough. Day 1 Xe.
Now let's talk about that math number. That math number was generated, you think, you don't know yet at this point, but you think because you made seat 1 mad as the Mathematician.
Mm-hmm.
And the next night, you also made seat 1 mad as the Mathematician. That night, seat 11 was murdered.
Alright, yeah, that makes sense. Seat 11 was confirmed by the Klutz as a good player, so that makes sense to kill him.
And you've later learned at some point in the game that seat 11 is claiming Oracle, who obviously never got information.
Oracle never got info. Cool. That's actually really good in a Fang Gu game.
Yeah. Day 2. Town executed. Where's on my notes? Day 2's execution. Day 1 execution. Day 1 death. Alright, day 2, town failed to execute anyone, further proving it wasn't a Vortex game.
Oh, interesting. So no execution on day 2. Basically, they thought, okay, we got an extra kill out of the Witch Curse, so they decided just not to knob or do anything.
Yeah. Night 3, seed 3 died.
Okay.
Seed 3, you've since learned, was the Dreamer. You know, obviously, they got the Sweetheart Dream off. You're not you don't know 100% who their other dream was, but you heard it was seat 5.
Okay.
You haven't been paying that much attention to good information. So.
That's fair. That sounds like me.
Day 3. Oh, and you again made seat 1 mad as the Mathematician.
Right, I did that for 2 days, right? Made seat 1 mad as the Mathematician.
This is your 3rd day of making them mad.
Oh, I made them mad as the Mathematician for a 3rd day?
Mm-hmm.
Without knowing their actual role.
Yeah, you have no idea what their role is. They've been mad as the Mathematician.
All right, I can see why there might be mistakes. Let's carry on.
Day 3, y'all executed the Clockmaker.
Where were
the
they?
The Clockmaker had a 3, which is a number you obviously know is correct.
Right, and where are
everyone else, seat 4.
They're in seat 4. Okay.
And also seat 4, day 3, seat 7 also died to a Witch Curse.
Nice, good job, Witch.
Seat 7 you've since learned was claiming Flower Girl. You and the Fang Gu have been doing a good job voting together, so they got a yes on a day that you both voted, and a no on the other day when neither you voted. Night 4, seat 5 was killed. Seat 5 woke up and claimed Sage. They claimed to see seat 12, or seat 6 and seat 1 as the demon.
Seat 6 and seat 1 as the demon.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Oh, and you once again made seat 1 mad as the Mathematician.
And I made seat 1 mad as the Mathematician now for 4 nights in a row.
Yes. That day they executed seat 6 as the Sage Ping everyone thought was more evil, because the seat 1 has been getting a Math 0 every night.
Mm-hmm.
The other player alive is, of course, seat 2, who you know to have been claiming Savant, but you have never talked to them and never gotten their Savant information.
Okay.
Now, Milk. As I mentioned, I said I think your character's made a few mistakes up to this point. Can you
Yeah, I
really
have.
guess what I think those mistakes are?
Yeah, I've made a gigantic pile of mistakes. And gigantic pile of mistakes is making someone mad as the same role for the entire game without knowing anything about their character. Locking them in without having any way of making a decision about this. Now, look, locking someone as the Cerenovus can be incredibly powerful, right? It can be a great way to deny the good team a crucial piece of information. But in this case, I have no idea what I'm denying the good team. I have locked someone as a Cerenovus, which makes the game much less fun for them, first of all. Second of all, it makes the game much less fun for me because I'm not really using my ability very effectively. And I don't have any idea what I'm preventing. I've also now gotten myself deep into kind of a well of what if this player has a powerful role that if their information gets revealed, it's going to sink us. I'm almost in a situation where I have to continue doing this just in case, which is a terrible choice. Another terrible choice that I've made is making them mad as the mathematician. Making them mad as the mathematician isn't stupendously useless. It's not going to make them particularly suspicious to town. It's not a role that a demon would likely bluff necessarily. Like, it's a middle to sort of powerful role. It's very easy for a player to just go, yeah, on the math I've got a 0, and just say the same thing over and over and over again every night, right? It's not particularly useful. Also, I know there's a mutant in this game. So if there's a mutant in this game, I've immediately noticed that nobody who's alive is claiming mutant, or nobody who's dead is claiming mutant, which means one of these two players might be a mutant. And if I use my Cerenovus ability to make them mad as an outsider, then they're going to get forced into a real bad situation where they have to break madness and get executed. So really, my next job is to try to either make the mutant mad as the mutant, or get the Cerenovus or get the Fangu to jump to them. So I need to figure out which of these two players is the mutant, and then...
But fun stuff. It's nighttime.
And I don't know where
your demon gets to kill it. You don't get to talk to them.
And I don't know where the demon is gonna go.
And there's one more mistake I think you've made, which is C2's claiming Savant, and you don't know any of their information.
Yeah, that's a huge problem.
Avoided their Savant.
I have actively avoided getting the Savant information. That's a real problem, right? Savant information is, look, Savant information can be annoying and difficult to parse, but you can't just ignore a piece of powerful good team information as an evil player. Evil players need to know what the good team knows. You need to go and try to get that information out of them. You don't have to push super, super hard, but you've got to find a way to get them to at least share something with you so that you can build your world off of what they know, right? If the Savant has information about outsider count or where outsiders are on the board, that's great, right? If I can get that information, I can use that as the Cerenovus to impact, the mutant who I'm literally desperately looking for and could win the game by Cerenovus maddening.
All right, Milk. Now, here's the challenge. Your first step, one of your challenges, of course, you have to pick who you're making mad as tonight, and as what.
Well, we're certainly not making Seat 1 mad as the mathematician again. One of these two players is going to be made mad, probably as the mutant.
Okay.
That is one way to go with this, is to make one of these players mad that they're the mutant.
But what if they're the mutant who gets jumped by your Fangu?
That's the problem. That's the danger. I could make myself mad, which makes me look less suspect. Does anybody know? Oh no, nobody knows there's a Cerenovus in play because Seat 1 has been
locked as the mathematician the entire game.
And what's my demon bluffing?
Your demon's bluffing artist.
So I could just make my demon mad as the artist. That's the safest play here, probably. Making them mad as the artist means if they hit the mutant, then the mutant is then the mutant is going to Yeah, so if they don't hit the mutant, if they kill the other player, then the mutant's going to be stuck, not being able to come out, and my demon can push on me as like, hey, you haven't been really doing the town crier thing very well, or whatever, and it makes me look evil, and maybe that makes my bluff fall apart, and maybe it can pin it on me. That's one possible world. Another possible world is to make. If I haven't been aggressively claiming to be the town crier through most of the game, if I've left town crier available, I could make one of the two living players mad as the Philo, something that hasn't really been claimed, because I know all the claims on the Grim except what seat 1 is claiming. So if seat
no
1,
one knows seat 1,
right?
Isn't that fun?
Yeah, it's great. So if seat 1 is just the mutant, then I can give them an out of play role that they can claim at this point. I can make the Savant in seat 2 mad as the Snake Charmer. That's another thing I could potentially do to try to seed some sort of weird stuff. But that could be a mutant claiming Snake Charmer, but that might let them know that there's a Snake Charmer bluff out there, that's available. So, I mean, there's a lot of different things I can do to try to manipulate this situation. I actually have some really, really good options here. Safe option, make the Fangu mad as the artist. If they hit the mutant, then they jump, which is dangerous for us, but killing the artist is, the artist being dead then and going, oh, I think it's Milk, who's, probably not the town crier. That's fine. I need to look as suspicious as possible tomorrow, regardless of what I do here. If the Fangu...
a final call on what madness you're going to do, though.
Oh, yeah.
Because there's a phase 2 to this scenario.
Oh, there's a phase 2 to this scenario, which I have to do, right. Which is probably the final day, and how I make myself look really, really suspicious. I think I want to...
There's like a 50% chance your demon's jumping, right?
Yeah, there's a 50% chance the demon's jumping. I think the most useful thing I can do is make... So I think I need to hide that there's a Cerenovus, and I think I need to hide that there's a living Cerenovus in the game. Which means I could just make seat 1 mad as the mathematician again. As crazy as that is, doubling down on the same thing, which has been a mistake the whole game. At this point now, I might have the sunk cost to a point where my job is to make that player claim to be the mathematician. If the Fangu jumps to seat 2, then I can look like I'm evil. It doesn't look like there's a Cerenovus still alive. We really can't let town find out that there's 2 evils alive at this point, because it makes the player in seat 1 look good, and it makes it look like there's probably a Fangu jump. So actually, we do have to make seat 1 mad again. We can hedge our bets by making seat 1 mad as the barber, since no one has used that claim. If they're the mutant, they die from execution. If they get Fangu jumped to, then we're in a little bit more trouble, as long as town doesn't suss that world.
Yeah, that's a tricky one.
Yeah, that's a really tricky one.
Yeah, making either of them mad as an outsider is sort of dangerous.
Is pretty dangerous. I think I can't do that. Weirdly, I think as terrible as this plan seems to me in my mind, I think I might have to make seat 1 mad as the mathematician again.
Cool.
That's a terrible. It's terrible, sunk cost.
You aren't the best player.
Yeah.
In this scenario.
Yeah.
So you make seat 9 mad as the artist.
Of course I make seat 9 mad as the artist. Okay.
Alright. You wake up, and what do you know? Seat 9 is dead.
Great.
And look, as I told you a few days ago, I was going to add a timed element to this scenario.
Yep.
Which is, seat 1 says, I think seat 6 was the Cerenovus, and I think seat 2's evil, because I'm not the mathematician. I'm the Savant. Now, Milk. I'm going to read you 5 Savant statements from seat 1, and 5 days of Savant information from seat 2.
Oh,
then
no.
I'm going to set a 4-minute timer and ask you to tell me which one is your demon.
Amazing. I love this. Okay. All right, I'm gonna
All right.
I'm gonna do my best. I'm gonna do my best. Holy crap. Okay, yeah, this is
All
great.
right, so
Love
this is the seat 1 savant statement.
All right, I get the info and then I get the timer, right?
Yeah, I'm not gonna have me
Okay.
reading the savant statements be part of the timer.
Hang on, let me seat 1. Okay.
All right, seat 1, day 1. The outsider count was modified. Both neighbors are townsfolk. Day 2. Evil has targeted evil this game. Only one character change possible. Day 3. A once per game ability has been used, or the demon received an outsider as a bluff. Day 4. More living evils than good, or a chef that looked at townsfolk would get a 3. Day 5. Seat 12 is the demon. Seat 2 is the demon. Seat 2's savant statements. Day 1. The outsider count was modified. 3 characters that can cause poisoning are in play. Day 2. 1 instance of madness is in play. A chef that looked at townsfolk would get a 3. Day 3. The Fangu has jumped. Going clockwise, more townsfolk than outsiders are between the minions. Day 4. You are the last living townsfolk. Taking seat 1 as 1, and seat 12 as 12, a demon sits on an odd-numbered seat. Day 5. Seat 12 is the demon. Seat 2 is the demon. You have 4 minutes to parse this information and figure out which one you have to keep alive.
Okay, so some of those statements are the same. Of course, I wasn't able to write down all the statements. You said them far too fast for me to be able to track all of them.
Which is a real problem with trying to learn 10 savant statements from 2 players.
From 2 players on Final 3, yeah. So,
which is, again, as we emphasize,
I will use part of my...
getting the savant statements from seat 2?
I will use... I will use part of my 4 minutes here to say, please, for the love of God, try to get some information out of townsfolk before you only have 4 minutes to solve the game. As an evil player especially. This is a great scenario. Okay, so... all right. Both of them have statements about the outsider count being modified. Can you just give me the statement from can you just give me the 2 outsider count statements?
Those are both day 1s, and they were both the outsider count modified.
Okay, and what was the other statement for both of them?
Both neighbors townsfolk, 3 characters that can cause poisoning.
Okay, so they both have that correct. What's the day 2 information?
Evil targeted evil, only 1 character change possible. 1 instance of madness in play, a chef that looked at townsfolk would get a 3.
Okay, that makes it seem like seat 2 is the mutant. Can we go to the day 3?
Once a once per game ability has been used, the demon received an outsider as a bluff. The Fangu has jumped, going clockwise. More townsfolk than outsiders are between the minions.
Second statement is true for seat 2. What was seat 1 again?
A once per game ability has been used. The demon received an outsider as a bluff.
Okay, those are both true. Let's get day 4.
More living evils than good. A chef that looked at townsfolk would get a 3. Or you are the last living townsfolk. Taking seat 1 as 1, and seat 12 as 12. A demon sits on an odd-numbered seat.
Those are both true. Both of those statements are true. That was Savant. That was the person in seat 2, right?
Yep.
So, just to make sure, the first statement was you are the last living townsfolk?
Yeah.
So if they were the Savant, that would be true, and the demon sits on an odd-numbered seat. That would also be true if the demon were in seat 9 or in seat 1. So they can't be the Savant. They can't be the actual Savant because their information says that they are the only living townsfolk, which would mean that seat 1 would be because that was when 4 of us were alive, right?
Yeah. Or 5, actually.
The witch was also alive. Yeah, but that's fine. So they can't be the last living townsfolk and also have the demon be seated on seat 9, which is an odd number. Those are both true statements. The player in seat 2 is the mutant, or was the mutant and is now the Fangu.
But what about the sweetheart drunkenness?
The sweetheart drunkenness is on the sage, who got not the demon in their sage ping. I don't remember who they got in their sage ping. They got the witch and someone else. The witch and
They got the witch in seat 1. Well,
the witch in seat 1.
30 seconds to spare. You parsed the 10 savants, the 10 total days of savant statements from 2 players, 5 days each, and you successfully identified the jump to seed 2.
Wild. That was very hard. That was exceptionally difficult.
Right, and like part of what I wanted to do with this was sort of go in.
That's really good.
Like the issues that can happen when the Cerenovus chooses to use their ability to suppress information from the evil team, not just the good team, and also when minions forget to play the game, which is good players need to go and are trying to go and get information, and evil players also need to be trying to go and get information, especially in S&V, where you might not know who your demon is on final day.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of really interesting lessons to take out of this. I actually think your scenario here is really, really useful to talk about a couple of things. The first is use your ability with agency. Right, you see it often that people with the Cerenovus ability just kind of throw Cerenovus madness around the Grim, and that's fine. Like, if you're just having fun throwing Cerenovus madness around the Grim, okay. But it's important that you understand who you're making mad and why you're making them mad. And kind of the same thing goes for Witch here. Like, this Witch was really successful and killed 2 people. They might have been paying attention to those players' personalities if those players like to nominate. You can sometimes tell if players have like a lot of information they want to act on by the way that they talk in nominations the day before. And if you're paying attention and listening, you can really find good places to use your ability. If somebody seems like they are having a lot of chats with a lot of different people, you might want to suppress their information because they might have quite a lot of information that they're trying to spread around. So that might be a good place for you to use your Cerenovus ability. Certainly, Cerenovusing your demon as the artist it's a safe play, but it's not a great play here.
Yeah.
Right.
And the reason your character did that obviously is we wanted to do the Savant Statement Challenge.
Yeah, and the Savant Statement Challenge is awesome. And realistically, probably what I would have ended up doing was making seat 1 mad as not an outsider. Probably as the mathematician again. Maybe like the choice is: do I play aggressively and try to get a mutant to be stuck forcing to break madness if the Fangu doesn't jump? Or do I play defensively and make it as difficult as possible for Town to solve between the 2 players? Ideally, I'm trying to get killed, right? Like, ultimately, in this final 3, I probably don't care as much about who the demon is because I always want to kill me. But not knowing all of that Savant information and only having 4 minutes to solve it is hard and a lot, and you just have to.
And that's realistically what's going to happen if you're in the situation where you've chosen to avoid the Savant because you didn't want to deal with Savant statements.
Yeah, and townsfolk have to do that too, by the way. I mean, we our townsfolk scenario kind of went a little sideways, but townsfolk have to get 5 days of Savant information from a Savant and parse it in 4 minutes, and that happens all the time. Or you get all the fortune teller information on the final day and also all the information from some other role, and suddenly you're trying to parse 2 or 3 different roles worth of information. Some of it's poisoned or drunk, some of it's different character, some of it's lies, evil characters making stuff up, so that's like a really good challenge, like to test how quickly you can find the statements that help you. And so in this case, we push on seat 1 and kill him, probably.
Yeah. Now, because we wanted to do the Savant Statement Challenge, and that was sort of like the original idea of this exercise, I was like, something interesting with S&D is you can end up with a minion who doesn't know who their demon is on final 3 and has to make a strategic call there, and I figured a fun way to emphasize that would be like the Savant Statement Challenge.
I think
There's,
great.
Of course, another option you could have used to figure out who your demon is, which is, of course, you could have said, seat 9, seat 6, let's go have a private chat.
Yep, I could have outed evil and gone and talked to the evil team.
Would you have considered that at all in this situation?
Yeah, absolutely. In this specific situation, absolutely. And there's a really important reason for it, which something I've been thinking about with this podcast, and some of our friends in the Grim Scenarios channel in the Discord, on the ECG Discord, where you're all welcome to come and join us and chat about the podcast. But some of the things they've been mentioning is how the things that we're saying might change people's ways of playing, or like how they might change metas and things like that. But one of the things I've been thinking is I'm wondering if it's going to change how people think about me as a player and the things that I do. But I think what I want to share here is I am in a prime position to be outed evil on this Grim, because I am the last vote before both of these players. And if I out evil, I can disrupt this vote in so many different ways. And that's a high level strategy, thinking about voting patterns and thinking about where you are in the circle related to these things. But if it's close on seat 1, if there's enough votes to put seat 1 on the block and I'm the last person, and seat 1 hasn't nominated, let's just say seat 2 nominates seat 1, and there's three or four votes on seat 1, right? I can drop my hand, I can leave my hand up and then drop it at the last second to make it look like seat 1 is my demon, and I was trying to, manipulate the vote. I can nominate seat 2 and then try to tie it and make it look like I'm going to try to tie it on them. There's a lot of things I can do to try to socially manipulate town. Obviously, we can't demonstrate that necessarily in our way of doing things, but this seating position is really strong for me. There's a lot of good players that are going to have to make a decision before it gets to me. Seat 6 probably needs to keep their hand down. Actually, I might need to go talk to seat 9 and leave seat 6 out of it. To have seat 6 still have some plausible deniability, even if the town thinks that they're evil. It depends on how evil town thinks seat 6 is at this point in the game. Similarly, I might need to leave seat 9 out of it if there's any thought that it's not Fangu. So there's a lot of things here that kind of you can think about in terms of, is it worth it to out evil just to get the information? Should I solve it myself? Can I manipulate the votes by voting on other players? Trying to get other players to think I'm evil and vote with them or vote against them or things like that. There's a whole lot you can do in this situation that doesn't just involve using your character token's ability. Sorry, I went on a bit.
Yeah, no, that's exactly what I was hoping to say.
Yeah.
I wanted to talk about the sort of issues with Sarah locking, because it's a strategy I think a lot of new Cerenovus like to do. And besides it not being fun, it ends up even in situations where the evil team, you're missing information that will help you win.
Yeah, and I mean, it isn't fun. It's not fun for the Cerenovus because you're not getting to really use your ability that much. I think a lot of times the hard thing is when you have someone locked and then you go, oh, I just figured out that they have information that solves the game for good, and now I'm forced to lock them for the rest of the game. That's kind of a bummer. You figure out their role, or you figure something out about them, and then you're kind of feels bad, but you kind of you're just doing your best to try to win the game. But really, you don't want to just unless there's a ton of value in town not knowing there's a Cerenovus in play, there usually isn't that much value in it. It's worth it to just try to disrupt the flow of information in a variety of ways. It's worth it to hunt for a mutant and see if you can make them mad as an outsider. There's a lot of things you can do with Cerenovus that don't just involve locking one piece of information down. The better thing to do is pay attention in late days and try to lock down a potentially game-solving piece of information for a day or two toward the end of the game, rather than for the whole game. And even though everybody in town's going to go, oh, well, they're definitely Cerenovus mad, what are they going to do? They still can't give out their information, as long as you've been smart about how you've used your ability. Don't make them mad at something that can give out information on the sly,
Yeah. Well, Milk won my scenario. I lost Milk's scenario, so...
Yeah, it was a tough scenario. I knew it was a tough scenario.
That's Milk 1, me 0. In terms of differential weeks where we both don't win.
I don't know that it's worth keeping track, Emma. I think it's probably.
But anyway, we'll be back next week with more Sects and Violets.
We'll be back. Emma will be evil.
I will be the evil player. Milk will be the good player next week.
That's right.
I'll be designing the good player Grim, and Milk will be designing the evil player game. I think it's safe to assume we won't be doing Cerenovus and Snake Charmer next week, because
definitely
unlike in TB, there's it's more important to have there's a lot of different interesting things you can do with different characters. So I assume Milk will come up with something that's not the Cerenovus, either a demon or one of the other minions. Mm-hmm. And I will certainly be coming up with something for Milk that's not the Snake Charmer.
Yeah, I have an idea.
But thank you for joining with us. We've had a lot of fun doing this, and
thanks for all the great
Grim scenarios.
Thanks for all the great feedback is the other thing I was going to say, but I didn't want to interrupt your outro, so I guess, do you want to do the outro?
See you next week on Grim Scenarios.
Bye.
We'll work on it this time.
We're doing great.
Bye.
Can they hear us? Can they still hear us? Oops. Okay. Bye, everybody.